I'm Swasthika Arulingam, speaking on behalf of Unite Coalition, which is a coalition of trade unions and mass organizations. We have gathered here today to speak about urgent issues, and we want to enlighten the public on these urgent issues, which obviously the government is not doing. The government has been misleading the public on several fronts. One is that within the free trade zones in the garment sector, several factories are closing down. Even 2 days ago, a factory closed down with over 300 workers losing their jobs. And because the Labour Department did not get involved in time, workers were not even paid proper compensation when the factory closed down. So this is a serious issue. This is an urgent issue. Last year, the World Bank, there's a statistic which says nearly 500,000 jobs were lost. So this is the phase of the crisis where unemployment is an issue, where workers who have earned this country's economy for the last 40 years in the plantation, in the factories and so on, are no longer eating. Children are dropping out of schools. Houses are no longer, they're not lighted anymore because they can't pay the electricity bills. And people are no longer living, they're surviving, but they're no longer living. So this is the situation under this new IMF regime which we are living under. And despite that, the government is like this IMF's puppy dog, going and doing everything which the IMF wants the government to do. And one of that is a labour law reform is being brought forward by our labour minister. And also our domestic debt, the government says our domestic debt is being restructured. So I want to address both these issues. The Labour Minister has brought this labour law reform, and when we look at a summary of this labour law reform, which is only in Sinhala, so me as a Tamil speaking person do not exactly know what is in this content of this draft. So I had to rely on my Sinhala speaking colleagues to understand this draft. So essentially what it says is the labour law draft, it wants to break down trade union rights, which was already precarious. Despite having protections in the law, trade union rights were already precarious. So they want to break down trade union rights. Then they want to make the contract of employment as the law of this country, which is completely against any kind of principles of labour law. And then Manush Naniakara claims that he wants to protect women, protect the rights of women, and give equal opportunities to women. I just want to ask one question. In which employment relation, in which factory, in which company, when you don't have a union, when you don't have the space to collectively bargain and collectively demand, where has the rights of workers ever been protected? This is not only in Sri Lanka, this is global. So Manush Naniakara says in our country, investors are not coming because of stringent labour laws. But we have research after research saying investors are not coming into this country not because of labour laws, but because of corruption and because of the lack of policy of government. So instead of addressing that, now you want to scapegoat workers, now you want to gaslight workers and say we have stringent labour laws, we have labour laws which only look at the side of the workers, which is what labour laws are supposed to do. And therefore, investors are not coming. So therefore, we want to dismantle the protection which existed for workers when the main issue in this country is unemployment. And the government has no answer as to how it wants to address it. The second issue, of course, is EPF. Now, government says we need to restructure our domestic debt. Then only the external creditors will also restructure our external debt. Now, there is no definite undertaking by external creditors that they are going to even give us a haircut. And the government has already run a mile appeasing the IMF and wanting to restructure the domestic debt. And that also, what does it do? It does not touch the private bondholders. They are not affected by this domestic debt restructuring. Who does the government, the only group in which the government wants to restructure the domestic debt are the workers and their superannuation fund, the EPF, ETF funds and so on. So what I want to say in summary is the government is misleading the public by saying that their savings are not going to get affected. But the government and the president who is unelected, a president who does not have the mandate of the people, wants to get into some kind of an agreement with the IMF which is not accountable to the people again, and they want to run this country, and they are running this country almost as if they are taking revenge on the people for questioning a corrupt executive last year through the Arulingam. So we are having this press as members of Unite, as women, as representative of workers, we are having this press to say people should come out and question this government and harshly question this government as to what this government is doing to protect people, protect workers who have earned for this country in the last 40 years, who are not the reason for this crisis, what the government is doing to protect these workers, and why the government is doing everything to protect the people who have brought this country into this crisis while passing the entire burden of the crisis on the workers. We are not surprised that the president is doing this. He is in fact protecting the Rajapaksa family, so he has a vested interest in doing this. But we call upon people to come out onto the streets and question this strongly, because otherwise we won't have a country to call our own, because privatization is happening, our retirement funds are being slashed, our labor laws are being dismantled, our people are not eating. So we won't have a country left if it goes at this rate. Thank you.